welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Stoked to have you on the podcast.
I am way hyped to be here.
We've been trying to plan this for a minute.
Way too long.
Finally,
like 2 weeks.
Finally, we get you in.
I
It's kind of hard. Everyone's schedules are so busy. Everyone's doing so much stuff. Like, it's hard to make it happen, but we did it.
Yep.
You're here.
Here we are on a, what's today, Wednesday? It's a Wednesday morning.
It is Wednesday. Wednesday morning.
We
Got
made
our
it.
coffees. We're waking up.
Oh, yeah. I found this mug in
That's
my house,
interesting.
and
It
it's
looks
so
cool.
sick. Dude, it's the comfiest mug. It's
It
so
reminds me of
nice.
Bali,
Really?
like the pottery they do there.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
I
Oh,
don't
I didn't
know.
realize it was close on that side.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
I love it. I made Lexus hold it this morning too. I was like, check this out.
So, who is Keisha?
Oh boy.
What do you do? What have you been up to? I know okay, so obviously we met a long time ago working at a ski shop.
Which is awesome.
Shout
time
out
ago.
Ski and Sea brought us
Woo-woo.
together. You introduced me to my girlfriend. We've known each other over the years, have worked on a few projects together with photography and videography. But yeah, tell me about what you've been up to. What do you do?
Yeah, so from Salt Lake, which is kind of cool. My dad is from Hawaii and my mom is from Tennessee. So I've kind of been all over the place, and like I've lived in Missouri and then I've lived all over the Salt Lake Valley. But besides that, I just barely got my degree in journalism and media studies, which is kind of cool.
I knew you were going to college, but I didn't know exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, so I got it because I didn't want to be a film major, and I did want a little bit, I just kind of wanted that piece of paper to say I had the piece of paper, to be completely honest. While I was in school, I was doing a lot of freelance work and working just at this cute little coffee shop, which was awesome. But I mainly got my degree in journalism so I could do like news production and learn more of the basis of writing versus the basis of like working a camera, because from your experience, my experience, I feel like knowing how to write is way more important than knowing how to operate a camera.
No, it's so true. That's exactly what I was talking about in my last podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're trying to do something, it's learning everything else that goes into it to make it the whole business happen. You know, the example I used is you could be the best skater at the skate park, but if you don't know how to put video parts out there, link up with photographers, put stuff in for magazines, you'll just be the best kid at the skate park your whole life. So I think that's really cool that you took that into like real consideration and went to school for something else while you were learning videography. So when you're done, you could put the two together.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so I love it. It was awesome. Like I just went to the community college and my professors were phenomenal. Like they all have tons of experience, and I just made all these fun little projects with them. And it's more of a communications degree, to be completely honest, but it was such a good experience, and I've had like a few friends go into that same field for that reason. But I feel like you're actually a really good example of being the best kid at the skate park but not knowing how, because I know so many kids that like look up to you, as weird as that is, and they're like, Scooter is like doing this, he's doing that, and I just don't know like how I can do it. And I'm like, dude, go talk to him. Like,
that's really rad. And seriously, tell them to come
email
talk to me. I would
them,
love
like,
to. Yeah.
Like you put in all that work, and obviously it's paid off, because
that's cool.
Yeah, like with Jiro and all of, you know,
which is cool,
CBMD, all that cool stuff.
I mean, and then nothing happens overnight. It's all about like those long-term connections. I mean, back from Ski and Sea being 16 years old, and then we're still talking here today. I mean, keep those friendships, keep your circles small, and
seriously,
you know, it's cool how it works out. But that's awesome that some kids were talking about it. And if you ever hear anyone talk about me, tell them to come talk to me. I love that stuff. Like I'm always open for advice. Email me or come chat on the podcast and we'll make it happen. It's cool.
That is pretty awesome.
Did you always think photography and videography was going to be your end goal? Like, did you always think that was going to be it? Or when you went to college, like, were you kind of experimenting between the two? Or
so this is actually kind of hilarious. I never really thought I was ever going to get into photography and like video work and such.
How come?
Mainly, so I think just because everyone, when you're growing up and you're in high school, they're like, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a massage therapist, or like in Utah, it's such a common thing to like go to beauty school and stuff. And
I had that in high school, sports.
Yeah,
like I was like, I need to do sports. Like that's my only way of getting to college.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And So when I was in high school, I didn't go to college right afterwards. And I actually did sign up for beauty school. But anyone that knows me, like, that's just
not you at
no.
all.
But I was just like this lost little soul, and I didn't know what to do. And so I ended up getting this job that was really cool, and it was like a management job, and I feel like it was school in a way because it taught me like small business, and I was just like mad hustling. And it was fun and everything, but at the same time, I was like this little 18-year-old running 3 juiceries, and I was like super burnt out. Like,
I
what
remember
the hell
that. That's when I was running
the
the pizza restaurants.
Yeah.
And so we were both like, I remember that because like we both wanted that videography and photography.
Yep.
But then we had to fund the dream. And so we were working like, we were both working probably at least 80-hour weeks. Like,
dude,
it was insane.
Yeah. And just, yeah, it's so much to handle, and like your hormones are running all wild too. So like everything's just super weird at that age already.
Yep. Trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. But I would go camping all the time, and that's when I started to really get into photography. And my ex-boyfriend, he would make all these short films from they remind me of like Jackass and stuff, just like comedy skits.
I remember them.
Oh yeah, just hilarious. We would do like a premiere once a year of like all the things that we would film together, and it was kind of cool because when I was younger, you remember those cameras that you would like shoot and you'd have to develop them a little bit later?
Yeah.
I would buy those all the time, and I would like have scrapbooks of all these pictures I would take.
That's rad.
Yeah, and so I loved taking pictures as a kid, and I actually went to Capitol Reef when I was probably like 12. My friend let me borrow one of their cameras, and this dude picked it up, and he's like, "Who's taking these pictures? Like, I'm a photographer. I run workshops. Like, you should come. Like, these are really great."
How old were you?
I was like 12.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, but I never did it because, 12, you're like, I don't want to spend a summer in Capitol Reef.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go skate.
At 12, I was probably playing with Legos still, to be honest with you.
Legos. Oh, those are so painful.
I was such a weird kid.
That's okay.
Okay, but sorry, you were at Capitol Reef, not wanting to do the...
Yeah, I didn't want to do it, but like that's kind of when I started to notice I liked taking pictures. And then when we were going camping and like making all these short videos, I was like, dang, I really love this. And it was fun, but I didn't think it's what I wanted to do until I kind of quit everything, saved up, and sold everything, and went to Southeast Asia and documented the whole trip.
That trip gave me so much inspiration for my Bali trip. Like, that was the whole reason why I was like, I need to go to a third world country.
Yeah.
When I saw your photos and your videos from it, I was like, oh my God, it looks so fun.
Dude, it was a game changer. Like, when I got back and just being out there, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to capture everything that's around me. I feel like I have a different perspective than a lot of people just from, background and like where I come from with my mom and my dad, and just being out there, and also having a different experience from a lot of other people that I met out there, just tourist wise. Like, I talked to them and they were seeing something completely different, which is cool. Like, you know what I mean?
What do you mean by that a little bit?
I guess so. When I was in Southeast Asia, I went to Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia.
Okay.
And kind of fun fact, Laos is the most bombed country in the world, which is kind of wild.
I was about to say sketchy.
Yeah, from the Vietnam War, and it's because like U.S. pilots would drop all of their bombs in Laos before landing because they didn't want to basically land a plane with a bunch of bombs.
Yeah. So if they didn't drop them, they would get rid of them.
Exactly. And
that's kind of messed up.
It's pretty messed up. And, it's very, not a lot of people know that. And so when you go over there, it's very undeveloped because they can't develop anything with the potential of bombs going off still.
Oh, still?
Oh, still. Yeah, people die all the time over there because of these bombs that haven't exploded. They're called UXOs. Actually, which is kind of random. But anyways,
crazy. I didn't know anything about that. I'm gonna do more research on it.
It's wild. Obama actually put a bunch of money into removing a lot of them in 2012, I want to say, which was cool. And he did a massive apology, but it was very swept underneath the rug just because people didn't really know what was happening. Yeah, they were like,
I feel like it's so crazy certain things that mainstream media covers and doesn't.
Right.
Political agendas and all that.
It is wild.
But
but mainly that was super huge, and it's affecting the whole country still. And for me, that was heavy. Like, I was learning so much about the US that I never knew. But when I was talking to other tourists and stuff, like, they were just so focused on, I guess, just like partying and like, doing it for the gram, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But for me, that was really hard because I was like, my whole world, like, I didn't know. Like I
Like,
felt
I've been
so
lied
guilty.
to. Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, I didn't know this happened and they hate me because I'm an American, like.
It's pretty crazy when you do international travel and you realize like how many people really disrespect Americans. Like,
Yeah.
we're kind of looked at as a joke.
Yeah. Well, and what made that trip really hard, but also very, like, wild was that Donald Trump actually got inaugurated right when we got there.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so it was the heat of like political turmoil.
Yeah.
And, politics aside, like, it's the US, we live in one of the best countries in the world, but for other people it was really like we would talk to people and they'd be like, "Where are you from?" "Oh, we're from America," and instantly, like, they were just such dicks to us.
Yeah, it was
And
like that in Indonesia. It's like that in
Really?
Japan. In Europe was the
Dang.
worst. To be
Oh.
honest, Europe was. I mean, they hear you speak English and it's just like automatic disrespect.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is wild.
At least that was my experience. I
Yeah.
mean, there are nice people out there
of
everywhere,
course, everywhere.
but like just at your local like cafe on the corner or something,
Yeah.
as soon as they realized you didn't speak French,
Mhm.
it was just kind of like you noticed the table next to you was getting their order way before you, and
You're
just like
"Dang it."
certain things that just kind of like made it feel off in my experience.
Yeah.
But
It's crazy that that's one thing that can completely change everything.
were you scared of like a bomb going off when you guys were
Dude,
walking through?
So they do pretty good with like the tourist areas of keeping it like pretty well.
That's when the U.S. would have a problem. Is you blow up a group of tourists from
Yep.
another country, and then so I
Mhm.
could see that they're pretty strict on that. Maybe.
Yeah, they're super strict with it. But there was the only place that I got kind of sketched out was we were walking. There's a lot of caves over
Mhm.
there, like rock climbing caves. It's freaking like
Did you bring
a
gear?
mecca.
Did you
I
guys go
didn't
climb?
bring gear, but we rented some one day,
Oh,
and it
rad.
was so sick. It's like this awesome limestone. Oh my gosh,
Is it cool?
it's so cool. Like I seriously was shook over how many caves were over there. Like these
Really?
caves, like King Kong could live in them. They're freaking
That's-
wild.
that's
They're
cool.
huge. Sorry, I was just thinking about some of them. They're freaking. It's unlike anything I've ever seen.
Do you have a video on it or any photos?
Not really. It was, dude, there were so many, and like because the development over there is rough, there's like no lighting in any of them. So like the lights you do have is like your iPhone. And you're
Okay.
like walking around, you're like, something gonna bite me? What's
Yeah,
going
is
on?
something living in here?
Yeah, is something
Hello?
living in here. Like, it's all of the freaking rails and stuff are covered in like bat feces and stuff. So you're like,
Ooh.
there's a possibility of you walking out with something you
Yeah.
don't want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I was in Indonesia. There's this cave that we were snorkeling to,
Oh wow.
and you look or you come out of the water and you look up and there's all these bats everywhere. And I thought it was so cool. I was just swimming in there. And then I realized I was like,
Wait a second.
they go to the bathroom, and where they go to the bathroom is right where and there's hundreds of bats in this cave. But I realized it after the fact, and I was like, at least I'm in the ocean. Like,
At least I'm in the ocean.
swim off and kind of clean off. But
Dang, that's
yeah,
wild.
pretty funny. Oh, so yeah, your travels.
Yeah, so that was the biggest thing for me when I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. Like, I feel like I can bring to the table like a unique perspective, and I love people. I love their stories, and for me to be able to come back and like share that experience even with you, like you didn't know about it, and
Yeah, I didn't.
I've told
When you were
so
out
many
there, I
other
didn't. I
people.
don't know if I knew you were out there. I don't know
Yeah.
if you were posting on your Instagram.
I didn't
much.
post that much out
Yeah.
there. It was a really heavy experience. Like, everything I knew got completely flipped. Like, it's kind of funny. I always kind of say like Thailand reminded me of Florida in a weird way. Like, everyone speaks in a different language, but there's 7-Eleven everywhere. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, like, it's very developed. Like, it's not what people think it is in Thailand. And then when you go to Laos, I almost say it was like my awakening in a weird way, because seriously, everything I knew, like, just the opportunity that we have here
Yeah.
and what we can do in America is just so phenomenal.
It's pretty crazy.
It's
When
so
I was in
beautiful.
Indonesia, like I had a huge awakening as well. Like I have never been out of the United States until we went to Indonesia. So
Yes.
when we went
so
there, it
cool.
was just kind of like culture shock to the extreme.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, again, I was so grateful just looking around, and it was really like kind of hard for me because it's getting very westernized, and the culture there is just like, I mean, by year it's just depleting and depleting, and like it's turning into definitely not what it was. For example, we were doing this tour through this gentleman's village, and he was showing us kind of how they make money in his village, and all the women, I forgot the word for it, but they make the quilts that they wear when they pray and when they go to the temples, and they're really beautiful. It was in my last Bali video, but on my YouTube channel. And so the older lady was making it, and then the younger girls were all watching, and they said it's tradition for all the women to do it. They do it for about 5 hours every single day, and they make these quilts. And or they're not quilts, but I forgot what they call them.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and the kids were just sitting on their phones. They're probably like 12 and 14, and these girls were just sitting on their phones as we were all talking, kind of sitting together. And then we asked, oh, do they know how to do it? Could they show us as well? And he goes, oh no, the younger generation, they don't like want to just sit down for 5 hours every day, and they're on their phones a lot. And then like we were kind of looking, me and my girlfriend were looking at each other, and we're like, okay, like interesting. And so like you could see how that could die pretty quick. And then just throughout the whole trip, we were noticing as we were in these different places, the kids were just on their phones, and they play these gambling games and all these different apps, and they have like Fortnite over there where they're all playing Fortnite on their phones.
Dang.
And I was like,
that's wild.
a few adults that we talked to were telling us that the kids just don't have interest. They're kind of the technology, because they don't have movies and they don't have Netflix and TV like we do. They get stuck to their phones and these apps and these games.
Yeah.
And so it's like all brand new to them, and it's super crazy to them. So I mean, it's pretty sad you see that. And I mean, it was crazy. You have the culture shock of that, and then you see how it's getting westernized, and you'll see like a Quicksilver in like this nice $1 million building, all glass, like marble floors, like crazy nice, nicer than some that we have here.
Yeah.
And then right next to it, you see like this old Balinese man making cement in this like little bucket, and he's hand putting his own little, like he has this little area of land that he can build on, and he's making this little hut to sell some things out of, which is probably going to be straw hats or some clothes or something that they make over there. And so it's pretty sad. Like you see how we're coming in, and I mean, it's kind of a new thing with all these YouTubers to go buy villas and turn them into Airbnbs there. And so we're coming in with all this money, and it's not, their education system is not teaching them any type of like entrepreneurship. And it kind of is like that in America, but we have a lot of like small programs for that. But it was pretty intense just kind of seeing kind of what we're doing to them, like surrounding countries, Australia as well. Like Australia is huge over there. The United States is big, a lot of Europeans. But we met a guy from Poland over there, which was cool. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And me and Lexi were talking, we're like, we really need to go back to Indonesia as much as we can in like the next 5 years, because call it 15 years, it's going to be the same as it is here.
Yep.
I mean, we already saw, like you were saying, 7-Elevens, chains of restaurants, Starbucks is over there, like it's pretty crazy. They had Domino's over there.
They had Domino's?
And so yeah, it's pretty weird.
Dang, that's crazy. It is super weird, and it almost has this weird feeling that everything's kind of becoming the same, you know, because of the chains that are moving in.
The internet, social media is kind of
even like
linking
the fact
everyone.
that Fortnite is over there, like it's
well,
a
here's
huge
the thing that people don't realize,
you know what
is
I mean? Like,
they have Instagram.
Yeah, they do have Instagram.
Like, this is kind of what I was thinking, which would be really hard for someone living over there. But if they follow someone who lives in California where marijuana is legal, and over there it's a death sentence.
Yeah.
So they get on Instagram and they can see a kid in California smoking a joint, skating on the beach and surfing, and then they look at what they have. And so you have that kind of going. But then on the flip side, they have Instagram as well. So they can see people playing Fortnite. They know what Twitch is. They know what we have over here. And so there's that going for them as far as like the educational sense. It's opening them up to like what else is out there in the world.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like it's kind of like a good and bad, right? Because like you don't want to see a country just kind of sit in poverty and not have technology.
You want to see them grow.
You want to see them grow, but then you see the culture side of it and how that's like just depleting and going to disappear. And you look at the United States and we don't have any culture really. Like it's just a mixed bag
big old
of
melting pot.
Yeah, really. So I don't know. That's kind of what makes traveling special is the culture. But if you don't have culture anywhere, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Kind of wild. So in Cambodia, there is this nonprofit called Skateistan, and they started in Pakistan. And in Pakistan, they originally started teaching skateboarding to younger girls, and then
that's cool.
Yeah, they're such a cool nonprofit, and they've grown so much. Like Tony Hawk is like a huge founder for them. Like Jamie Thomas has done a lot of work with them. But they opened one in Cambodia, and I got to visit it when I was out there, and it was so wild because they have this plaza where they all skate every single night. Like they used to kick the skateboarders off, but there were just so many kids coming to this like one plaza that they were like, fine, we'll light it up for you guys, but you can only skate here since there's no skate park in Cambodia.
Yeah.
And so then Skateistan got there and opened up a skate park for them. They have like a skate shop, which is cool. But I was talking to, I can't remember her name. I want to say it's like Allison, and she's the media director for them. And she was out there at the same time. She's actually how I like got in to find like the freaking main hub, because we like had been emailing them and couldn't get a hold of them. And then chances are we just ran into her, which was so wild.
Oh, that is sick.
Right? I was like, what the heck? And we had our skateboards, which was cool. But
it's fate.
It is fate, dude. It was so cool to hear her talk about what Skateistan has done for these kids in Cambodia, because a lot of the times, kind of like how you were saying, most of the kids usually follow into their parents' footsteps where they just do the exact same thing. They end up being like a food vendor, or they're making these quilts.
Well, it's kind of like the family. Like if the family has property, they kind of just grow into it, and it's their kind of way of life.
Exactly. Like they don't really have another option. But what she was saying is that with skateboarding and kind of having a different influence over there, it's given all these kids like the motivation to start skating like every single day so that they can try to make it big and be on like Cambodia's skate team or something like that. Like with the Olympics coming up, like,
and it teaches you so much. People do not understand how many life skills you learn from action sports.
It's so
like
crazy.
The confidence to just, I mean, being able to have that mindset of trying something after and after and after and finally getting it and feeling that success and what that feels like and then applying that into life. I mean, it's pretty cool.
It's so cool. And it's wild because that is like one thing that, like, just talking about like the influence of, or like an outside influence in like a third world country. Like that's, she was saying they have classes on like sanitation and hygiene. And so that these kids
teaching
are like,
them
exactly
other skills than just skateboarding.
Yeah. And I follow a few of them on Instagram, which is hilarious because speaking of which, like one of them, when I first followed him on Instagram, like he was just like posting skateboarding, but then he started like following, you could tell he started following like more like other skaters in California and stuff, and he started like posting about like weed and all this random stuff, and I was like, oh boy.
Here we go.
Here we go.
That's funny.
More so just hilarious because it is like that outside influence of what it brings, but it's really cool to see. Like, and they just opened another one in South Africa, which is really cool. Like,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like hearing about programs like that they're not just trying to capitalize off of, you know, the nonprofit, and they're really trying to make a difference from like the inside out. Yeah. And especially working with kids. I mean, that's so cool. Like when I was in Indonesia, I really left with something, and I've told you about it a bunch, like on our personal time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this podcast. And once it gets some traction, I want to kind of blend the two. But it actually kind of happened when I was getting my tattoo, and with my tattoo, I was getting a blessing, and the tattoo lasted 12 hours, and it was a stick and poke, and it was one of the most painful experiences I've ever had.
Is it the one on your knee?
Yeah.
Okay, I still haven't even seen it in person.
I'll show you after. So cool. It's really cool.
I've just seen pictures, and it looks so badass.
I was so stoked, but I got this stick and poke, but before I went through this whole like ceremony, this blessing, it was the coolest experience ever. I mean, I'm not one to cry at all, but I was bawling during this experience. It just like brought something out of me, and it was the most craziest thing ever. And I found something inside of myself, and it was talking to me, and it was telling me, like, kind of, what's your purpose? What are you here for? Like, cool, you're trying to be this content creator and create entertaining pieces, which hopefully you want to see in theaters. That's cool. But what are you, what's your purpose here? What are you actually doing on this earth? And it made me kind of like separate money and materialistic things and actually like having a purpose, right? Because everybody wants to make money, have a house, and be successful and financially be able to take care of their family. And I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? But what are we here for outside of that? Like, what's our purpose? And it made me really dig in, and it just kind of came to me, and it made so much sense. But if it wasn't for cameras, if it wasn't for snowboarding, if it wasn't for just having outlets to be able to express myself, and I call it telling your story, because when I snowboard, I'm telling my story. When I ride and I'm getting a good carve on the mountain, I look back on it, that's my story. And when I'm taking a photo or I'm creating a video and somebody's watching that and it's entertaining them and it's taking them away from the bullshit in their life and they can just escape from that, I'm telling them a story. And so with this podcast and with this nonprofit that I want to start, and what I took from this experience was I want to give back to the kids. I had an experience when I was, I think, 11 years old with snowboarding, where I was absolutely horrible at snowboarding. I couldn't even strap in, really. And I was just a complete mess. And I was having a breakdown, and like I couldn't just get my bindings to work. And the two kids that I went riding with just ditched me. They're like, you suck. Like, we were 12 years old, but they're like, you suck. Like, we're out. And so they ditched me, and I was on this big mountain. I had no clue what I was doing. I couldn't even get to the bottom. And I ended up getting stuck kind of in this tree area. And I don't know how this happened, but this kid that my sister was friends with in high school, which my sister's a few years older than me, he came by and he was like, Scooter? And he like stopped. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I can't get my binding to work. I'm completely like stuck. I don't know what I'm doing. And he fixed my binding. He just made it a little bit longer so I could actually get it into the connection, because nobody set my bindings up properly. And he taught me how to go to my heel edge, how to go to my toe edge. And he snowboarded with me the rest of the day. He bought me lunch. And like, the kid had no obligation to do that. He was riding with his friends, but he just stopped and helped me out. And if it wasn't for that moment, I was going through a really terrible time in my life. My family was separating, like things were just falling apart. And if it wasn't for that kid taking the time out of his day to actually like help me out, I mean, that was game on for me. That's when it kind of like, that's when it clicked for me. It was like, okay, I'm the worst. Now I want to be the best. And so with that kid helping me, it like changed my life. So I'm like having this epiphany during this like meditational experience in this set too. And it clicked. It was like, you need to give that back to other kids. You need to give other kids an outlet to be able to tell their story. And so I can't go to a third world country and take every kid snowboarding or anything like that. But what I can do is I can travel to a third world country, and I can bring a bunch of small cameras, and I can meet with an organization which will get these kids together, and we'll go out and we'll teach them some business skills, teach them an outlet how to tell their story. Something that's huge in Bali is like tourists getting guided tours around town. And if you can teach these kids how to take photos while they're touring with people, they can make a little extra money and get some tips. And so trying to like teach them how to leverage that, and then who knows what it could turn into, but at least just spending the time with the kids. And I mean, when I would hand a kid my camera in Bali, he would take a photo with it and just be like mind blown what it was doing for him. Like, he'd take a photo, look at it and be like, I created, and like just like light up, right? So I was like, even if I could just like make that kid smile like that, just like a bunch of kids, you know, like that one moment for me changed my life, and who knows if you could give that to someone else. So I'm creating this nonprofit in which me and a bunch of friends would come together, and we would travel to these third world countries, and obviously have everything set up where we work with a group of kids for a few days and just get after it, man, and show them a good time, and really just document the experience and create some cool stuff. And we'll put together some like little learning lessons for some business strategies and little things, so we can send them home with like a little kit to kind of, you know, study on. And it should be pretty fun. I'm excited to get it going. So we haven't done a trip yet. We're still in the process of getting, you know, the nonprofit together and getting some funding and everything, but Kind of with the podcast, it's kind of why I named them the same thing, is because I want to talk to people through this podcast and, you know, maybe bring up the Tell Your Story Foundation at the end of them. And as I'm working with other people, hopefully, you know, we'll be able to do a trip together and we can talk about it. And so should just be a cool way to kind of blend it all together.
I just have to say, one thing I really love about that you have like really kept avid with is teaching them business skills. I just feel like you can give so many people so many things, and of course, like, you don't want to give someone money, you know what I mean? You want to give them a whole experience, these kids, and like just give them something that they can take for the rest of their lives. But people don't think about like interpersonal skills or business skills or communication skills. They just think like, I'm going to give this to someone. And I think that keeping that in mind and like telling these kids like, hey, let me teach you a few things that is going to help you for the rest of your life is so cool.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing like with Skateistan, like with the personal hygiene classes and stuff. Like that's some kids will like never have known certain things. Like,
it's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like, I just think that's so cool.
What
and
we
so
grew
important.
up with versus what they grew up with is so night and day different. And so
100%.
people kind of just think that, oh, they have it figured out, or, oh, they already know that. That's simple. But
Yeah.
they really don't.
Yeah.
Like, they really, really don't. And so if you can, you know, maybe just change them or change your mindset a little bit. I mean, we're all on this world together, and we all need to take care of this world together.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we're coming to with social media. It's really like it's blending the borders, you know. I kind of like to say that because it really is. Like,
it totally is.
It's creating, the cultures are all blending. It's allowing communication from one end of the world to another. I don't
So
get
cool.
charged on my phone when I can Instagram chat someone from the other side of the world, as
Which
long
is
as we both have
awesome.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like, you know, things are changing, and it's really cool. So
Random question. When you guys were over in Bali, did you just use Wi-Fi to connect, or did your phone have like service all over?
We made that mistake, which we then learned very quickly, which anyone who's looking to travel to third world country, buy a SIM card at the airport, or when you first arrive, ask your taxi driver or your transportation, let them know that you'd like to stop and buy a SIM card for your phone. They're so cheap over there, guys. Like, we made this mistake, and I don't think my phone was unlocked, which was the bigger problem. But make sure you pay off your phone, unlock it before you go to a third world country. It will make your life a million times easier. But just buy a SIM card. They're seriously like $10 for like 100 minutes of calling. So yeah, and then you pop that thing in your phone, you can use it just like normal. But yeah. Dude, so I learned that lesson in Indo, and then in Europe, my phone wasn't paid off yet.
Oh no.
And so I was like, okay. And then after Europe, I paid it off, and I was like, sweet, I'm good. And then the new iPhone came out, and I was like, I want that iPhone because it does really cool video stuff. So I bought the new iPhone, and then I was going to Japan. And so they don't let you pay it off. You have to sign up for it for a month. Unless you buy it through Apple. You can pay it off right through Apple. So I signed up for it, and then they wouldn't let me pay it off, and I was going to Japan. So then I was screwed again because I couldn't put a SIM card in it. So I was like,
dang it.
Last like 6 months, I've been to 12 countries. And 12 countries
Woo.
last 6 months. I've been home. I feel so bad for my girlfriend, but I've been home like, this is the longest I've been home in 6 months. It's been this month.
Even like when we were messaging to like do this podcast, I was like, you're still here?
Yeah, I was like,
it's
it's been weird. Yeah, it's been cool though. We've got some jobs lined up here in Utah, which allows me to be home. So taking it in, hanging out in the lab a lot, which is nice. You know,
lab.
Don't have to travel with the workstation. Not living out of suitcases right now.
Woo, it's a good feeling.
It's a good feeling,
Nice
but
on and
it's
off.
hard cleaning up after yourself when you're used to hotel rooms.
So true.
Like, hotel rooms just do it all for you, and especially in Indo, they do your laundry.
Yeah.
And then you come home and you're like, wait, I have to do all this myself?
You know what was hard for me was, so I was in Asia for 3 months, and I just had a 40-liter backpack and my skateboard.
Okay.
And I had like 4 shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, 1 pair of pants, and like just tweezers. I didn't wear any makeup or anything, and like a hairbrush.
Yeah.
And what was so hard for me to come back to were options. like options of clothing and like shoes and
Mine
just,
was
like,
the food. Mine
makeup,
was the pantry.
food. Dude, I didn't know what to eat. I was so confused. Like, I was used to having like noodle breakfast or noodle soup every morning. So like when I had eggs and stuff again, I was like, I don't know if I like this.
You're like, wait, this is different.
Like,
most of the villas we ate at, because I was so strict on where we were eating.
Yeah.
And most of the places we ate at, like, it was the same meal. Like, pretty much it was just like the curry everywhere or like the same type of meal. And then we got home and same thing. It's kind of like culture shock. Like, you're driving down the road and you're like,
I can eat here.
You're like, what? Yeah.
Taco Bell?
What-
Chick-fil-A?
What is this?
There's 18 different burrito places on one street. Like,
So kind of jumping back a little bit, but when you were like with your videography and photography, how
Yeah.
did you find that once you figured out what you wanted to do, where did that kind of like tunnel vision happen where it was like there's all these other influences, there always is, hanging out with friends, doing other things. Like, at what time did you kind of create that tunnel vision and say, okay, I'm like game on, let's go?
Yeah. So this actually happened when I was in Asia.
Okay.
I got salmonella poisoning in Cambodia and got stuck on this island for like 2 weeks. I was supposed to go to like southern Thailand and like see all like the freaking like the PP Islands and stuff, go there.
Yeah.
But I got stuck on this island and I was so sick and I was just so beat up from like all the culture shock in Laos. And in Cambodia, it is so heavy too because they had a genocide, so like a huge mass murder.
Oh wow.
And it wiped out like a good amount of their population. And so I was just like beat up from like taking all of this in and like getting salmonella poisoning. And I actually had a job lined up in Alaska for me to go and work there in the summer. So like get home, back into the US, stay in Utah for a month or so, and go up to Alaska. And after like experiencing all of that and being stuck in this freaking, what the heck is it called? It's like it looks like a little hut. Like,
yeah. I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name.
I can't remember what it's called. But anyways, no Wi-Fi. There was sand fleas. I was just like, damn, like this is my life right now. And this is so wild. And I can't just go home and pretend like none of this didn't just happen. Like I haven't experienced like everything around me completely evolving. So I'd kind of been tinkering with like the idea of going back to school, but I thought it was going to be for environmental reasons because I love like the mountains and just being outside. That's super important to me. And after meeting so many people and coming back and realizing that I was sharing their stories and that I probably will never, ever meet them again, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm not going to Alaska. I called up everyone and they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going. I'm enrolling in school. Literally got home 2 days later and enrolled in school, and I was super late, but I like did all of it within like 3 weeks, started up summer classes and like just got a job, figured out all of that. And yeah, ever since
kind of went all in.
Yeah, I completely jumped in. I was like, if this is what I'm going to do, I'm just going to completely immerse myself in it. And yeah.
How many years ago was that?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay, so it's something that I kind of always like to use is like the 3-year rule. When you're looking at getting into something new and looking at trying something, it's like if you're not willing to completely dive into it and give it at least 3 years, you're not going to see the results you want when you first started until at least 3 years in.
Yep.
And
100%.
so as you're coming on your kind of 2-year mark, because I'm about my 3 or 4 year mark, and I'm just kind of getting to that point where I'm like, okay, this is kind of like where I want to be. Like, it's kind of moving more like everything's kind of happening how I want it to happen, so to speak. Where do you see yourself like with that? Like in the 2 years, are you?
Yeah, I'm actually, it's kind of hilarious because just talking about like videos and like photos, I look at the videos and the photos I took when I was there and I love them. Like they take me back. But it's kind of one of those hilarious things, which I'm sure you can relate with, that if I was there again, it would be a completely different, like,
100%.
Yeah, like you'd be able to capture so many more different things. Just
you'd know what to look for. Yeah.
Exactly. And gear wise too. Like I have like a complete new setup and it's freaking sweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm actually, so that was like my game changer. I've put in all this hard work in school. I've been like developing my portfolio here in Salt Lake. I haven't really left too much, which is kind of a bummer, but it's also been really good.
Yeah.
And this summer I'm headed to Palestine with a nonprofit called Skate Pal.
Okay.
And I'm going to be working with them to teach skateboarding in the Middle East and also build a skate park out there.
Okay, that's cool. Is it dangerous over there?
It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
nervous?
gonna lie. I'm a little bit nervous because I am going by myself and I'm a girl, and I just kind of talk to whoever. I like love meeting people.
So you're gonna film and like photo over there? And
Yep, I'm gonna film and photograph everything over there. I've been actually talking with the owner of Skate Pal, and that's like something huge that he wants as well. Is like
that's
a
so
lot
cool
of
that you're gonna
content,
do some cool
so
stuff over there.
I'm super excited. It's in line with everything. Like I taught skateboarding last summer with Spock Skate Camp, which is super sick. And I just worked with little girls. And then before I leave to Palestine this summer, I'm going to be working with Spock Skate Camp again, teaching skateboarding.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, like it's like we were saying, it's something I'm super passionate about. Skateboarding's been huge for me since I was like 8 years old. And it's been one of the biggest factors in my life. It's how I got into snowboarding. It's how I met all of my friends in the snowboarding community, even though I snowboard more than skate now. And so, yeah, that's my next big thing is working with them. And I am like filming a few random retreats and stuff until then, and just, doing like random little freelance jobs.
Well, from looking from the outside in, I mean, you being 2 years in, I can definitely like from when we were first kind of talking about it and doing some stuff till the stuff you're creating now. I mean, I see it. That's why I was kind of intrigued to know like kind of where you thought you were at.
Yeah.
Because I like beat myself all the time as an artist. Like my work can always be better and better and better. But no, I mean, I think you're killing it right now.
Dude,
I mean, that's awesome.
It's so wild you say that because I feel the same way. Like I remember when you first started out, I was like, that is so badass. Like I'm so hyped. And like seeing literally your first video when you guys went to Hawaii, you know what I mean? To the last video when you guys were in Hawaii is so wild. But even just...
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm like super grateful to like have been seeing your journey. But as an artist...
Isn't that the coolest thing though? Like being able to watch your friends grow too. Like I love it. Like one of my biggest pet peeves on the polar opposite end is when my friends say they're going to do something and don't do it. And it's kind of like such a letdown. But there's not a better feeling when your friends like, oh, I'm trying to accomplish this, and then they do it and you get to watch the growth. You're just like that's pure just hype for me, right? Like I just get so stoked, and I always got to like reach out to them and talk to them and tell them what's up. But like I don't know. To me, that just gets me so freaking hyped, and people are killing it. And like,
straight up,
you just watch their progression, and like they talk and they actually back it up, and you're like,
Well, I love that you put it as like a 3-year rule thing, because do you know who Ira Glass is? He has a podcast called This American Life, and he's a journalist, and he's really awesome. But he has this quote talking about how people always quit before they're good. Because you have this idea of what you want to do and who you want to be, just like the things you want to accomplish. You start doing it and you suck. Like everyone sucks when they first start something, and it's so disheartening.
We actually just talked about this on my last podcast. Yeah,
it's like it hurts, man, because you like put so much time and effort into something, and it comes out and you're like,
it's never what you want it to be. Like,
but when like people always quit right before they get really good at something.
I had a few of those moments. Like,
dude,
I mean, Lexi will back me up, but like, I mean, I was going through a time where I was getting no freelance jobs, and I mean, I quit my job. I was like, I'm going in this 100%. Like, instead of going to my job for 8 hours a day, if I sat and I marketed myself for 8 hours a day, I could get those jobs. Like, that was my mindset, right? So it's like game on. And for like 2 months, dude, I'm like every day just like on Instagram for 5 hours messaging just companies. Then I'm out in the field just like going to expos, going to coffee shops, putting up headshot things. Like,
I totally have seen your headshot things before.
Have you?
I saw
around
that
town?
Sunset, Beans and Brew. I think Public, I saw one too.
Yep, downtown.
I always just cracking up.
Dude,
like, scoop.
I'm in that game, bro.
That's
and
how you
it's
gotta
like
do it.
that's how you got to do it, and I can't stress that enough. But I'm just going in, and it was like 2 or 3 months that nothing came back, and I'm having to borrow money from my girlfriend to pay rent, and it was so hard, and I kind of forgot where I was going with that. What were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about how being an artist, it's easy to get so.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, at
Yeah.
the quitting point. So
Yeah,
I was
the
at the point
quitting
where I
point.
was like, oh my gosh, like I need to go get another job. Like I can't keep borrowing money from my girlfriend. Like I need
Yeah.
a side hustle. And so I kind of bridged the gap a little bit. And so I started driving for Lyft. And
Mhm.
so I could make my own hours. So I was like, okay, if no freelance jobs come in, I'll go drive and make some money. And it ended up working out pretty good into kind of blending the two of once the freelance started picking up, I could lean off of the driving and kind of,
Yeah.
if nothing picked up for a week, I could go drive. And so that helped a lot. And the people I met while I was driving, I was pitching my stuff to, like, oh, you're in town for the week? Oh, if you need photos while you're hiking, and just
I'm
handing my
here.
business card just back and
Dude,
back.
I freaking love that. That is awesome.
And I actually picked up a few jobs. There's a jazz player who I picked up from the
Sick.
airport, and I handed him my card, and he's like, "Oh, right, I'll give it to our media director." And so you never know the connections you can make.
Mhm.
But yeah, just kind of having kind of what I talked about in my last podcast is figuring it out and creating a strategy for the end result. And
Mhm.
sometimes you gotta, it's not always gonna be a straight line. You may have to work some side jobs and kind of fish around it.
Yeah.
But shit, make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Dude, such a crazy thing, but once you start believing in yourself, other people start to believe in you too. And if you like get
100%.
off track a little bit, everyone's like, "Whoa, what are you doing? Like, get back on track." Like,
Funny how other people can
Yeah.
kind of see it better than you sometimes.
seriously.
Like I'll notice like I'll be off a little bit and then I'll post something on YouTube and someone will reach out and be like, "Bro, where have you been last 3 weeks? Like why aren't you releasing this every week?" And
You're
it's
like, "Oh."
yeah, literally it's like, why aren't I? Like wait,
Yeah.
people are liking this. Yeah.
Seriously, because like kind of same thing. Like I've taken this winter off a little bit just to snowboard and like get back in touch with that. Because this is my first season back in like 3 years where I've been like straight powder hound, and I love it. But I've had so many like just this like last 2 weeks, which is really random. I've had a lot of people be like, "Hey, what are you shooting? What's going on? Like, where are you going? Like, what can we look forward to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know."
Yeah,
Like,
I struggle with that
actually,
all
I
the
have
time. Yeah.
like a few things, but hold on, like, it's
Like maybe I should do that tomorrow instead of next week.
exactly
Like,
like it's cool. And like, yeah, especially with you, like I know people are looking out and they're like, "Oh, what is happening?" Like even me, I'm like, "Why are you still in town? What is
yeah. What's going on? This isn't normal.
Yeah,
And
I
that's something I've
genuinely
tried to
was
like
"What?"
really push for on my own YouTube channel is like putting deadlines for myself. So now on
Which
my
is
banner,
super
it's like
important.
video every Sunday, podcast every Wednesday.
Mhm.
And I've noticed there's been times where it's like Saturday night, I'll pull an all-nighter
Mhm.
just to get that video out on Sunday when before I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'll edit it tomorrow and then put it out Monday."
Mhm.
But like putting those guidelines for myself like has helped me
Yeah.
tremendously.
Mhm.
But I get asked a question a lot, and maybe you'll have a good answer for this, but it's like people always see me traveling and they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky. Like, how do you afford it? Like, oh, how is this kind of like either given to you or like that's not obtainable? How can I do that? Like, how are
Mhm.
you doing that?" And I know you travel all the time. You're always everywhere. So, maybe like how do you travel
Yeah.
and afford it and make money to go to school and do all this other stuff?
I would say the biggest thing is priorities, and also you gotta sacrifice a few things. Like
Sacrifice is huge with
it's
success.
it really is, and not in a bad way though. Like especially with budgeting, that's probably my biggest thing is I budget. Like I eat out, but I have $30 a week that I eat out with. If I hit my $30, then I'm not eating out. I'm eating PBs and J's. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and my biggest thing is I've lived in Salt Lake my whole life. I know what's good. I know what's not good. I don't need to go out and experience all these new places. Like if something new opens, I'm down. But if I'm going to go to Texas or freaking Japan or something, I want to be able to go all out and splurge out there. So if that means sacrificing the same meal that I can eat here every day so I can eat whatever I want out there, then heck yeah.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Prioritizing.
Exactly. And when it comes to budgeting too, it's just kind of one of those things. It's like, do you really need the shirt, or would you rather experience skydiving? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just putting into perspective what you want to do. And when it comes to working, like last summer I was in school full time, and I was working 2 jobs to make
I remember
ends
that.
meet.
I'd ask you to go shoot, and you'd be like, "No, I got school. No, I'm working.
Yeah.
No, I got school after work." It's like, weren't you at school this morning? Like, what?
Exactly. Yeah, but what's nice is I saved up and I was able to take 3 months off of work and just kind of like doodly daddle and like travel around and stuff. Like, it's just kind of that balance of working hard and playing hard. Like, if you write down what you want to do and where you want to go and have like a vision board, and every morning you wake up and look at that, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to work hard so that I can go and do that.
Yep.
So I would say those are the biggest things that I've like told other people, is to prioritize. If you really want to do it, you're going to do it. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it.
That's the truth,
Yeah.
though. If you want
Like,
it, you'll go get it.
Exactly. If you want to go to Disneyland, you'll figure out how to go to Disneyland. And if that means not eating out for a week, then don't eat out.
Not going out to the bar and spending $50 a night.
Dude,
like,
straight up.
I mean,
like,
there's so many
it's
people I talk
expensive,
to.
man.
They're like, "Oh, how do you afford that truck?" And it's like, they're going out to the bar. You see on their Instagram story, they're going out to the bar every weekend and then going out and doing stuff midweek with their friends. And then they ask you, "Oh, how do you afford your truck?" And it's like, because I'm not spending $200 a week on activities.
Yeah.
I'm putting that back into myself and my brand and everything else. But kind of like talking off of what you're saying and kind of putting my 2 cents in is, I kind of approach it a little bit different, but kind of off the same thing, is so much as if you're not willing to sacrifice it, then you got to work for it.
Yep.
So it's like, if you want to go out to the bar and spend $50, but you still want to travel to Bali, Indonesia, then you got to work for it. You can't be that person that's going, "Oh, I'm working 40 hours this week." Like I was talking, I keep going back to my last podcast, but like I was saying is, if you're not willing to put that 9 to 5 in, and then that 5 to 11 in, whether that 5 to 11 school, your second job, your YouTube channel, if you're not willing to double down on it, then you can't look around and look at other people that are doubling down and going, "Why do they have it and I don't?" And that's the reality, is you see these young kids traveling. It's because they are working 2 jobs. They are, I mean, the behind the scenes of everything. And that was the thing I learned most in my internship with Sawyer out in LA, is the workflow and the work ethic. It's like, if you're not willing to wake up at 6 a.m, edit for 5 hours, go out and film a video all day, come home, edit, email for 4 hours, be on Instagram for 3 hours, and then get 2 or 3 hours of sleep and do it all over again. I mean, it's kind of like, what do you want? And obviously there's a healthy boundary, and
of course, yeah,
knowing that time takes time, and like, nothing happens overnight, and it's probably going to be a 3-year span before you start seeing any results. And granted, that's not everybody's situation. You see people blow up overnight all the time, but I mean, that's my 2 cents, is more the hard work. It's like, if you're willing 100%. To prioritize hard work and some sacrifice, fuck, dude, anything's possible. Like,
seriously.
And actually, I think the biggest thing is just sending it.
I agree. And because it's kind of like if you believe in yourself and you send it, it's all gonna come.
I was
with you,
so
100%.
nervous that the Indonesia ticket was like $1,200, and I was so nervous. And I think at the time I only had like $2,000 in my savings account. So I'm like, okay, that leaves me with $800 to actually travel there. And I was like so nervous. We bought this ticket. And then, boom, I go to Indonesia. And, so this is kind of something, as well as helping getting it funded, is I'm like, oh, shit, I'm going to Indonesia. And then I was like, oh, no.
Oh, no.
And, like, literally, I was freaked out. And then I turned that, oh, no, into, like, a fuck yeah.
Oh,
and then I started going to companies. And I was like, to clothing companies, to all these brands. And I was saying, oh, I'm going to Bali, Indonesia. Tickets are already booked. These are the dates we're going. Here's my YouTube channel, and started putting together a package, something that they could buy into, and sold them on something. And so I showed them some of my previous work for clothing brands. And then I was like, if you'd like us to rep your clothes while we're shooting in Bali, blah, blah, it'll be X amount. And I started creating all these packages. And then I pretty much got my Bali trip funded. And I was like, holy shit, it's all about perspective. Like, I could look at it as, not investing in myself, not purchasing that ticket, knowing I don't have enough money, being scared, and then it always becoming like an excuse after excuse. Or I could send it and then look at all the opportunities that happened because of it. And then the Bali content turned out so good. People are loving it.
Freaking love it.
And then it's opening up opportunities for other trips. So you never know. It's more just if you just send it, and obviously have a strategy with it. I mean, I mean, that's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Send it. That's why I got that tattooed on my hand.
Oh,
in
that's
Japan.
what that means?
Yeah,
No
send
way.
it. So when
I
you do
love
like a
it.
bump for someone,
Send
send it.
it.
Yeah, sick.
Definitely have to say the biggest thing I ever learned from skateboarding and snowboarding.
Commitment.
Go big or go home, dude.
Commitment.
Yep,
like
commitment.
if you
Just
know you're gonna
speaking of
fail,
sending
don't
it,
even
like,
drop in.
Don't
But
exactly
yeah.
go big or go home. Like go all in or don't do it. Because if you half-ass anything,
it's already
it's half-assed.
yeah, it's
Like,
already
come on,
done.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're
It's been
looking at
done.
like other people's stuff and you're like, I want that, but then you're only willing to put in half the work, you're only gonna get
Yep.
half the result.
Yep.
So
Exactly. So
when are we
send
gonna
it.
travel? I want to plan a trip with you. We need to do something. It's
Yeah,
been a minute.
we definitely need to do something.
I know you're gonna be gone all summer.
Yeah, I'll be gone all summer. I'll be back in the fall though.
Okay.
And
We'll look at fall. We'll try to go to
yeah.
like, I don't know, Africa or like
Dude, I'd be so down to
like,
go to Africa.
Greenland or something.
Dang.
Like go see a bunch of ice things
Yeah,
and polar bears
That'd be
and stuff.
sick.
Oh, I got something that you're gonna be stoked
Ooh,
on.
All right, let's
Actually.
see.
We would take this bad boy.
Oh
Look at this.
My God.
It's a 150 to 600. So we could be on that boat and then we'll zoom in on polar bears and we don't even need to get close.
That is
Just
a big boy.
Boom.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about
And
as big as my
Sigma?
arm.
Nice.
Yeah, I was
That is
stoked on it. I picked it up
beautiful.
from a buddy in Hawaii.
Oh my God.
But I was like, okay, game on.
Jesus, that is beautiful. Yeah, that's a game changer.
Yep, let's take
Jeez.
that on a trip.
Yeah,
Let's do
we're
it.
gonna have to. Holy cow.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was good catching up, and we got to see you on another one.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for having me. This was great. I'm glad I got to be here. And
Woo! I'm stoked. Well,
heck yeah.
thanks, Keisha. As always, mic drop.
Mic drop.
Boom.
Holy shit, that was good. That was really good. Even Neo.